trust, that build the trust.
Absolutely, and that's
And with that, we are live. Welcome. It's Wednesday, Light 'em Up Wednesday. Time for another live show, time for another lounge session here with a very special guest for an inspiring, enlightening interview. We want to explore the world of starting your own cigar factory today. We have the privilege of hosting and welcoming Klaas Kelner from Kelner Cigars here today with us. It's a pleasure and a privilege. And Klaas, what an exciting time for you. Still a couple of years you have had in this industry, ever since you were born, actually. So we have plenty to talk about. But first and foremost, I want to welcome all our guests joining us, whether you're joining us here at the lounge via Zoom, whether you're joining us over on the Facebook live stream. Welcome. Thanks for taking the time out of your precious days to share a cigar and a great chat with us. If you have any questions, please chime in, make yourselves heard, put your thoughts, your questions into the comments underneath the live stream. I'm always checking, as you know, and I will very happily forward your questions to our guest of honor for today. Klaas Kelner, welcome to Light 'em Up. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Reinhard. It's a pleasure to be back under a new name. But
Absolutely.
It's definitely a pleasure to be back.
Absolutely. Well, Klaas, I fondly remember, I think it must be like 2 years ago now, when we jumped on Instagram Live, and you and I, we did a kind of a multi-sensory cigar experience, a very special, memorable moment that still to this day I have fond memories of. You've done some great things throughout your career, and your whole family has shaped the premium cigar industry like few others. We all know that such a family legacy and family history can be both a blessing and a burden. I certainly think, and knowing you and having had the privilege of meeting your father as well, I think you probably consider it more of a blessing. I know you're a very positive and always friendly and charming person, but how do you feel about having that, almost unbearable chip on your shoulder and that burden on you, carrying the Kelner name in the premium tobacco and cigar world?
Oof. First, thank you everybody for joining us. Thanks from all over the world. Everybody's tuning in to hear a little bit about my new venture, my new story. It's an exciting time indeed. And thank you, Reinhard, for inviting me. But yeah, basically starting this thing, it's not easy. Starting a factory from scratch, you gotta have guts to say it in nice terms. But not only that, but that factory has the family name on its front doorstep, and any cigar that comes out of that factory needs to uphold the quality, the consistency, and what the name is known for. We have a couple months operating and we've been making cigars, and the cigars that have been made are still in aging. And it is my job to taste the production of every single day and make sure that every single day the cigars are coming out well, and the cigars that have any issue at all, if it's color deformation or a little batch or a little too hard here, or flavor wise, is as consistent as possible, because what's going to talk out in the world, what's going to represent the family name out in the world, it's those cigars. So right now it's all beautiful. You know, we have a factory, we're making cigars. We have people that believe in us. We have people out in the world expecting cigars and they're looking forward to them, but they haven't tried them. And it's the cigar that's going to talk for me. And hopefully those cigars represent the family name in a proper way. So I think the burden is, I haven't received the brunt of it because probably my biggest critic is myself. And I know that when somebody calls me, they say, hey, I had this little burn issue, or hey, I had this little thing, you know, it's going to eat me up inside because I want to make sure that every single cigar that goes out into the world is as perfect as possible. And my dad and my family are very relaxed. And yes, they put a lot of trust in me, and I put a lot of trust in them. It's, you know, it's a family agreement that I could do this venture. I had my father's blessing, had my brothers and my sister's blessing to do this. So it was something I always wanted to do. And I have this desire for you guys to start trying these cigars soon enough so that I can prove myself to the world. I'm young, you know, and little by little, you'll see these cigars making a name for themselves.
Klaas, if I remember correctly, I think you were born in 1990, right?
Yeah.
And literally right off the bat, you started your lifelong quest to learn everything about tobacco and cigars in the most natural way, because it was always around you. You were surrounded by a family of tobacco and cigar people. Do you actually remember the first time that you actively enjoyed the aromas, the flavors, the sensations of tobacco and cigars around you?
Well, the key word there, I guess, is enjoy. Because at a very young age, because that changes the question completely. At a very young age, my father allowed me to taste cigars. My first memory of me asking my dad if I could try one of the cigars. They were at the dinner table in a small apartment that we used to live in, and he had family guests, and they were all smoking cigars. And I was 4 years old, and I asked him if I could try his cigar. I was a very curious kid, and he let me, and I tried it. I won't say I necessarily enjoyed it. I don't know. I don't remember much, but I remember tasting and not particularly enjoying it. I mean, I was 4 years old. Probably choked on it. I don't know. Who knows? You know. But I do have a very vivid memory at the age of like 7, 8, 9, in the months of January, February. My dad taking me to the farms and the tours that he would do for visitors, to the factory. I would skip school sometimes. My parents would allow me to skip school to see the visits. And then I would sit in the tastings. So I have very vivid memories of doing, we remember the Grand Cru tasting. And the Grand Cru tasting, you could argue that the Grand Cru was the first cigar I actually ever tried by myself and enjoyed by myself. And I started smoking cigars, not on a regular, but now more frequently, probably at the age of 15. And that's when I really started taking it as my own moments of pleasure, you know?
I can only imagine that when you soak up all these experiences and the learning about tobacco and cigars literally through your mother's milk, it gives you a completely different understanding and perception of the gifts of Mother Nature, the raw materials that we're always working with, and ultimately, of course, also the industry that we're working in, right? Was there ever a moment where you felt you would possibly do something else than tobacco and cigars? Was that ever a question, even, or was it clear for you, this is where I want to go, this is where I want to go?
I've told this story many times, but I went to a very Christian school. All my teachers were Protestant, Baptist, from the Bible Belt. That's why my English is the way it is. and we used to have career day. And I think only 1 year out of all the years of career day, I went as a soccer player. and then every other year I showed up as a engineer, because that was what my dad studied. And I would put on my Panama hat and I would put cigars in my pocket, and I would have like a calculator with me and pens, and I would show up to school with cigars in my pocket. And my teachers would complain to my parents that I was promoting tobacco in a very Christian school. And that it's what I wanted to do. I always wanted to be like that. There was absolutely no question about it. And yeah, you know, you soak it up and you see it in a different way. I just recently was in the UK. We were talking before the show started, and it's super interesting to go visit all these cigar stores that have so much history and so much respect for cigars, and the way they carry themselves, the way they talk, the way they present the cigars to the customers, the way the customers themselves go in. You know, it's like if you feel rich in tradition and such a respect for this cigar. And I grew up in a factory and a farm. So for me, I see leaves, and I see leaves that can break. I see leaves that are durable. I see leaves that are flexible, leaves that can withstand. If you drop the cigar and the cigar cracks a little bit, you can still smoke it. It's the same taste. You know, of course, there is you have to respect the cigar, the craftsmanship, and once the cigar is out there on the shelf, you know, so many hands and so much effort went into making this cigar. So hopefully somebody takes good care of it. But for me, cigars are so simple. Cigars and tobacco is just so much part of my life. It's so simple. I have cigars thrown sometimes on the bed. I have cigars thrown sometimes next to the my watch, next to the bed. I'll randomly find cigars in boxes, and I'll randomly find cigars in the bathroom, and all over the house, just scattered all over the house. My daughter will grab a cigar, she'll just be playing with it. And for me, she's a 2-year-old daughter just grabbing cigars and playing drums with the cigars. And for me, it's sure, let her play with the cigars. I can still smoke it. It will taste the same, you know, because I appreciate leaves in a different way, because I know I can work with it. I know they're durable. A cigar is much more durable than some people might expect.
I'm curious, with everything you just described, do you feel it takes away a little bit of that whole mystique or the romanticism around cigars that we sometimes hear and see amongst consumers and people in the industry? Or is it quite the opposite, that, you know, it's so deep in your heart, and it's so much part of who you are, that it has even more of that?
No, sometimes I laugh at the romanticism of marketing and different aspects at it in the sales field, but in a sense, it's another romantic style of living. You know, it's part of my culture. It's part of how I grew up. So it's my own style of romanticizing the cigar. I hope that when I'm explaining that my apartment is full of cigars all over the place, you know, I hope that inspires you to understand how much love I have for the product. You know, it's just a part of everything. But yeah, I'm not as romantic, you could say, as I'm not a poet. For me, a cigar is an everyday thing. It's not something that it can be. It's not like a dream come true. It's just there. It's the moment I have memory. It's always been there. It's normal. I have a different kind of respect for it. Maybe I don't know how to explain it.
Speaking of the romanticism that we sometimes see in the marketing side of things, your previous role with Davidoff in the end was heavily focused on the communication and marketing aspect, facing the end consumers and the retailers. Obviously, that was also part of your formative years in the premium cigar industry. After, of course, the Kelner school of tobacco and cigars. How would you say your time with Davidoff changed your perception of of the premium cigar world and the industry or the business aspect of this?
I mean, I give thanks to Davidoff because everything that I am today in part is because of them. So all the opportunities I got to travel the world to see friends, meet friends, see the marketing, see the sales side. They developed that marketing and sales side for me. Because if not, I would have been stuck in the factory and the farm every single day of my life. And my dad did tell me that if I wanted to be a more complete, all-around cigar man, I needed to be some time out in the field. So I definitely give him thanks. But it was always fun being in the marketing team and having that tug of war back and forth. You know, I'm the factory perspective, I'm the farm perspective, and you have marketing people that sometimes want to embellish something. It's like, whoa, bring it back a little bit. This is how we do things. So I always loved being not the voice of the factory in the marketing team. It was very nice experience, and kudos to the marketing team because that marketing team is amazing, and they can definitely bring to life and communicate to people what we were doing at the time. So I appreciate everything that they did, and I'm here because of them. You know, so it was part of my life. It was part of my career.
I know that in your family there's a strong entrepreneurial spirit. It's very obvious with your father, with your siblings, and I think I also remember your father once saying that eventually you as a full person, as a grown up, you should work for yourself at some point and be your own boss. When did that really become clearer to you, or when did you start to understand it and take it to heart and develop that idea of, at a certain point I've seen many things, I've done a lot of things, worked for other people, now it's time to go all in and venture out on my own?
Well, it was circumstantial, the moment I decided to go on my own, because that was mainly Davidoff's decision to let me free. If I could have seen myself till the day I died with Davidoff, I'm loyal as it gets. So I could have been with Davidoff till the day I died. I would have been very happy. But they decided to part ways. So they made my decision very easy and made it very quick. So my dad's saying basically is, if you're going to make mistakes, go make it at somebody else's company with somebody else's money. and then once you've learned from all your mistakes, go do your own thing and don't make those mistakes, and save yourselves a couple of heartaches and money by not making those mistakes, which I will still make other mistakes. But I'm 32 years old, and now I've decided to venture into this company from scratch. And I think the best part is that I did do my time somewhere else. So, and I made all the relationships, and I have the support from the family as well. So it's a scary time, but it's a fun and adventurous time where I will make mistakes and I will learn from them, because nobody's perfect. But I think that what I've learned somewhere else in my previous experiences, I can bring that to the table and maybe improve upon them.
Did that change of plans occur rather as a surprise to you, or and also, like, hands down, did you have an idea or a concept in the drawer about venturing out on your own, or was it literally the moment you ended the relationship with Davidoff, that's when you started to work on all the details, set things up properly, and really start the whole process of Kelner Cigars? Because, well, I mean, you had your consultancy company already, yes, right? Whilst still working with Davidoff.
Yeah, I was an external consultant in my last year for Davidoff. It did not take me by surprise, so I kind of saw it coming. But again, I'm loyal, So I didn't activate any plans or any ideas that I had until after the fact. So, but because it would be stupid of me to put all my eggs in one basket. I already had an idea of if the moment came, what I would do. So it's always been in the back of my head because my dad sold the company to Davidoff in 2001. So we weren't the owners of the factory. So it is very possible that we wouldn't be part of it sooner or later. And my brother worked in Davidoff and started his own thing. My sister worked in Davidoff, started her own thing, tobacco sorting and growing. My other sister worked in Davidoff, started her own thing. My cousins worked in Davidoff, started their own things. So am I following a trend? I don't know, but it would have been dumb to think that the only option was Davidoff. So you always have to have a second option prepared just in case, a contingency plan.
Obviously, that brings us to what we really want to talk about today, and what we want to hear most about from your most recent experience, and that is starting your own factory. And last week we had Renier Lorenzo on the show, who only recently opened his own factory as well, after working with Eduardo Fernandez for a couple of years, and he still does, of course, but he now has his own operation up and running as well. So for a lot of people, I think it's challenging and very difficult to just barely imagine what it must be like to start from scratch, building, owning, and operating a premium cigar factory. And let's be true, there's various sizes of factories and various things you could possibly call a factory, from one rolling table with one pair of rollers to a more substantial operation producing many millions of cigars a year. What was the challenging aspect, or the most challenging aspect for you, conceptualizing the whole thing, setting it up, and getting the place up and running eventually?
Well, there's a couple of challenges right now in the industry. There is several challenges. One of them is location. That's probably one of the hardest things right now. There's not many. If you start a factory, you have to decide several things off the bat. What am I going to do? How much am I going to do? And where am I going to do it? Am I going to do it inside a free zone? Am I going to do it outside of the free zone? So I'm inside of a free zone, so I can import and export tax-free. Those are the benefits of Zona Francas in Dominican Republic. They've been around since, and a very strong part of the economy since the 1970s. So there are factories outside of the free zone that have to abide by taxes and other rules. We have to abide by even stricter rules, but we get the benefits of no taxes. So you have to apply for this. It's not given to everybody. You have to go to a board. You have to show the government what your plans are, what your future is, how many employees you're going to bring, what products you're going to be exporting, what products you're going to be buying, and what it brings to the economy. So it has to go through a board first. And that in itself is an administrative process that is, for creative people like me, no fun. And it's probably the worst part, I think, of everything, the administrative side. But then the other challenges are the tobacco and the people. There is shortage of tobacco right now in the world. So being able to go to different suppliers and find the right tobaccos in itself is a challenge. When you're small, you're not buying hundreds and hundreds of bales. Most people can spare a couple bales here and there, but you need enough to guarantee consistency, not under your first production, but for many years coming. So these are different conversations that you have to have with the suppliers. And once you have a location, which was very hard to get, once you do all the paperwork, once you have all the tobacco in line and you have blends that are basically approved, so you can do your calculations, how many bales, how many pounds of tobacco you're going to need for X amount of years, then you got to find the right people and you got to build a team. And you got to build a team for the factory, you got to build a team for the administrative. And it's not easy also finding the skilled workers, because right now there's a mini boom of cigars and and everybody is looking for laborers, for people that want to make cigars, and it's a commodity, and the rollers know it. The rollers are very aware that they are needed right now. So having that conversation and making them roll cigars like you want them to is also another conversation, because they come with habits and other rules from other factories that might not be your style.
So the administrative aspect, I fully understand, and especially for somebody who's truly passionate about the product, the creative side, and the tobacco elements of things, is probably a pain in the ass to work through. For the tobacco, that's a very different story. Obviously, you have your family being so heavily involved with tobacco growing and trading in the Dominican Republic. Do you sometimes feel that people are, how shall I say, more supportive and more helpful if you carry the Kelner name, or is it quite the opposite, where they probably let you prove yourself a little more and be like, oh, let's see what he can come up with?
I think it opens up doors, obviously, and most of the suppliers, if not all, have strong relationships with my family, dating to before I was born. So I'm the son of a hanky, and yes, it is a burden, but it definitely helps. And my brothers and my sisters have done business with these people, so it obviously opens up the doors. But then once you're there, the negotiations are with you alone, and you have to prove to them that yes, this tobacco is what I'm looking for. No, this tobacco is not what I'm looking for. And even though they know I know, it is fun to go in and actually taste every single bale that I'm going to be purchasing, and then rejecting bales. And they're like, why are you rejecting it? It's like, come, taste it with me. Don't you think it's different than the other bale? They're like, oh, shoot, you're right. It is a little different. That's why I'm rejecting it. So I have to prove to them that I know my stuff as well, because if not, they're going to still treat me like a kid who's just learning the ropes. And the relationship is friendly, because I even did internships in some of these suppliers. So it is, I think it's the most fun part of it. Just this morning, I was looking at samples. This is part of my homework. This is one variety of tobacco. So today, after the show, I'll sit down and I'll smoke this. And this is one leaf. And I'm looking at this to see if I purchase more of those bales. And that's what I'm doing basically day in, day out, tasting the cigars at the factory, looking at the sorting, making sure the cigars are coming out with good quality. And then I'm going to suppliers, making sure we have enough for the years to come.
Let's dive a little more into that tobacco side of things, because you just mentioned that in the whole setup process, you obviously already had to calculate well in advance what are the quantities of tobacco that you might need for the first couple of years. I also know that very early on in the process, I think as soon as you announced that you would go all in and start your own factory, you had customers coming to you already, or projects in the drawer. So you had a very strong positive response from the community right out of the gates. Did you beforehand, though, have a clear vision and plan of which types of tobacco you would like to work with? And you started to fill up the warehouse with that as kind of a base inventory? Or was the purchasing more related to projects that you had already been working on, or where you already knew you will do X with a certain customer, Y with another one, and then you base the sourcing on that? Or do you have kind of like a base stock, your mother stock and mother sauce that you always use as the basic material?
I spent several months visiting different suppliers and tasting different samples from different years, different bales, different positions. And then I started making test blends. And these test blends were base test blends that I knew I could work with or I could improve upon. So I already knew in what line I was going to be buying tobacco and from who. and what from who. So, but what I didn't have was quantities, because yes, you can say, hey, I'll take X amount of bales from you, I'll take X amount of bales from you, but then you have to really do the math, and that you can only know until you know what your demand is. So you go out to different clients or possible clients that are interested, you sneak preview blends, they give you their ideas, you custom make the blends to them. And once you have a certain number of blends approved, before you even start, you already know more or less how much they want, even though they change the numbers and normally increasing the numbers. So you have to go buy even more tobacco, which is a good problem. But then you can start doing a math. And then on top of your math, you say, okay, I can supply my customers with this amount of bales of tobacco, these amount of pounds from these varieties from these countries. You know what? I'm going to double it. No, actually, I'm going to triple it, because I know I can use this tobacco in the future, and money in tobacco is better than money in the bank. So you overestimate 3 times, or depending on your company policy, how much more you want of what you actually need. And if it's good tobacco and it's in your warehouse, it's great tobacco to be aging.
Very good point. As a factory, do you believe in kind of a house style, or I guess it goes back to the tobacco and the purchasing element again, where you say, like, look, this will always be a crucial component of the fillers that we compose. You'll heavily lean on Piloto Cubano, just to say something, right? And maybe there's other tobaccos that might be not more obscure, but maybe less sought after. But you say, well, let's already buy a bale of Connecticut broadleaf, even if we don't know whether we might need it right away or not. So is there kind of a base stock that you always want to be part of the house style? And are there others that you just purchase out of popularity, or because you can probably see a project coming down the line that will use those types of tobacco?
Well, as every blender is different, and every factory has different styles, and every blender, whether we like it or not, we have preferences in tobacco. So I lean towards certain types of tobaccos more so than others, and I lean in that direction. So I buy more of it because I know I like it. I know I'm going to be able to blend with them. Then on top of that, you go to suppliers and they say, hey, I have this tobacco that is from X country, this variety. You want to taste it? And I taste it. And if I think it's interesting, I'll take a bale or 2. And then, am I using it in a project? No, but I have it. And what does that give me? That gives me a completely different ingredient to blend for a customer if they want it. Because at the end of the day, the one that decides on the blend is the customer. So I'm blending for a third party. I'm blending for a customer, and customer is always right kind of thing. They are gonna choose the blend, and they're gonna choose the tobaccos. So I might blend cigars that are not my cup of tea, and I'm completely fine with it. And it's just, I have to blend for them. It's my responsibility to be able to deliver to them a blend that they like with the tobaccos that they are considering. And I make them taste these tobaccos as well, so that they have a studied decision. They're not going blind into their blend. And then they decide on it, and then I have to make sure that I start liking that cigar, because I'm going to be smoking it a lot. There's one cigar that we're making that is, I mean, maybe if I was blending for myself, I would have not made it. But right now, we already finished that production of that cigar, and I'm smoking it every day. but if you would have asked me, like 3-4 months ago, do you like that cigar? I was like, oh, it's a good cigar. It's well blended. It's well balanced, but it's not a cigar with a blender for me. But now I appreciate what the cigar is supposed to do. I appreciate it for what it is, and I'm smoking it every day. And is it still my favorite cigar? Maybe not, but it is a cigar I appreciate and I understand.
Do you feel that this could be something further down the road where your taste profile will shift with every customer, or you might get new learning experiences, obviously with every customer, but do you think that the core perception and profile that you are looking for changes every now and then according to other influences and people you work with?
Oh, for sure. I think my palate will keep evolving. And as I keep tasting new tobaccos, especially from suppliers, it'll keep evolving. I've already tasted tobaccos that back in my experience with Davidoff, I never had the chance to taste because those were tobaccos that Davidoff didn't work with. So my palate is already trying new things in this short amount of time. So I keep learning, and I'm sure my palate will keep evolving. Maybe in the future, I will not like the same cigars I like today. Probably I will have a line that I'll continue to follow, but it might change one way or another. I think that's the fun part of it. It's never boring in the factory. You're always learning. I mean, this tobacco that I'm gonna taste this afternoon is literally a tobacco that I've tasted from this variety hundreds of times from different suppliers, but it's the first time I'm tasting it from this supplier. It might taste different. It might be from a different farm. I might be tasting something completely new this afternoon that I've never tasted.
Just out of curiosity, for this particular tobacco, how do you evaluate those little fumas and those pure grade tobaccos? What are some of the attributes that you're looking for? How do you characterize those samples of individual tobaccos?
I'm looking for, well, first they tell me the variety. And I already know more or less where in the palate is going to be stimulating and what physical effects it will have on the palate. So then first I try to grade it by, is it doing what I think it's supposed to be doing or what I expected it to be doing? Not only taste-wise, but also physical reaction on the palate. Then another thing I'm looking for is the level of the position of the leaf that they're telling me that they're selling it. Is it really that level, or is it different, or is it that farm or that weather, that particular year? Is it stronger? Is it lighter? So then I need to grade it in strength, where really in the strength scale it is, and how I would use it in the blend.
When you talk about strength, Klaas, sorry to interrupt you, but you mentioned strength. Are you talking about nicotine strength there, or the weight that it has on the palate, body, richness in terms of the aromatic and taste delivery?
Both, but more in taste. How much would it influence the blend? Because I'm thinking about blending in this moment, but nicotine does have an aspect to it. But then really I think one of the most important things at this point, remember I'm a small factory. So in a small factory setting, I don't have the ability yet to ferment my own tobacco. So I depend 100% on buying tobacco that's already well fermented or won't aged. So now I need to go and as I'm tasting, I need to understand, is it well fermented? Is this still raw? Is this still leaving dirty particles in my palate? Or is it a clean smoke? And that will tell me normally how much age it has, how well fermented it was, if it was under fermented. And so that's something I analyze. And then if I like it, then I got to taste the other bales that they're offering from that seed, from that year, from that farm, from that level, and make sure that every bale is doing exactly the same thing. Because it doesn't help me if one bale tastes one way and another bale tastes another way. And maybe one bale came from a different batch or a different fermentation pile and it was fermented different. So then I have to go and do that exercise and taste each bale separately to make sure that I'm buying all exactly the same tobacco. And I've rejected several bales and I've even sent back bales only once as of right now. But it's important that every bale tastes exactly the same for the consistency of the cigar. So that's really my thought process. Taste, strength, fermentation, and then consistency. And then I take all that into account and I say, how would I use it in a blend and in what percentage I would use it in a blend? It's math at the end of the day. You could almost like write, okay, strength level this much, taste level in this area this much, fermentation, okay, good, aging, good, and then percentage in blend, okay, you can do the math. Okay, it will have an impact of about 20% of the blend at this level, and you can actually write it down, and you can do math. It's the engineering side of the family.
Interesting that you talk about percentages and the effect that one tobacco might have on the blend, because I realized something when working in the kitchen or as a bartender in product development for beverages of all sorts. You can make a rough plan based on the individual evaluation of the raw materials that you're using, but once you put everything together, the equilibrium might change ever so slightly, and then sometimes the result of the equation is not always 10 plus 10 plus 10 equals 30, but it might actually be something else and different because of the way it all comes together. How do you address that? And have you experienced that?
Trial and error. You will get a nice surprise from time to time. It would be ridiculous to say that the math is always right. And it would be ridiculous to say that every blend I make is great. So I've made great blends, I've made amazing blends, and I've made so-so blends. I haven't made one yet that I don't think that I completely hated, but because the math helps to begin with. But it's good to have that basis, have an equation, and actually be able to know more or less what it's going to have. And then you tweak it. So once you get to taste it, you make a test blend, you let it rest for a couple of days, or you can smoke it right there and then and have an idea of what's going to be in a couple of days because it tastes different. And then you make your assessment, and then you tweak it. You do math again, and you pass it over to your supervisor and says, okay, make these slight changes. Let's see in a couple of days what's the result is. And it's the kitchen aspect of it, the part that is not 100% always accurate. That's where the magic happens. And sometimes little changes that you think might not affect too much can be very surprising. By changing, you know what, let's just change this one 10%. Yeah, it might just change it a little bit. And then the change is so drastic that if you were smoking it blind, you would think these are completely two different cigars.
With the projects that you're currently working on, how much of the initial input comes from the customer, or how concrete are the ideas that they approach you with? Is it a certain profile or a certain aromatic quality that they're looking for, and then you work the magic and translate that into an actual cigar experience? Or do they sometimes come with a particular recipe or tobaccos that they want to work with? How do you balance that?
Every client is different, and every client gives me a different amount of information. If the more information you give me, the better, because I have more to go off on. Normally, most clients know two things. They know what wrapper they want to use, what color they want for the wrapper, the visual aspect, and then they know more or less an idea, or like say, okay, I want a cigar that's 100% Dominican, or I'll give you some creativity. You can use some other countries, or I need this country in my blend. So make it happen. But you'll be amazed that sometimes a client gives me like 2 sentences, and that's all I have to go off on. And you're with 2 sentences, I go and ask more questions like, but okay, what about this? What about shape? What about size? I haven't thought about it. Okay, what about taste profile? Well, make it taste like, have you ever had this cigar? I like that cigar. Something similar to that. And you're like, well, I've never had that cigar. Can I go buy it? Okay, I'm gonna go to local store and taste it, but the more information you get is better. The issue is how much time you spent with the client at the end of the day, because if a client comes down and he spends a whole week with you, 5 working days. You can have blends for him ready on the first day. You can tweak it. 2 days later, you can taste it again. You can tweak it. 2 days later, you can taste it again, the tweaks. And you actually have a very involved client that sees every single change that we're doing. Those are the best clients. It's the more time-consuming ones, but those are the ones that actually become so much part of the project that the blend becomes their own. And you can guide them in a certain direction if something is not working.
Brian has a question, so let's bring him in right away. Brian, good to see you, my fellow.
Thanks. Good timing. I'm super curious because I don't think we've had a guest like this or a situation where I'm small batch client type of situation. So these are just folks like that with a bunch of money that have won a cigar just for them. Is it? I have no idea. I'm trying to figure out how this works or what this
Who the
is
client
in my
is.
mind. Yeah. Does it have your band on it? Or do they have? No.
It's third-party labels, right?
Okay.
If they so wish, they can say in the packaging somewhere that Kelner Cigars made the cigar. If they so wish, they can have participate. I can have some sort of participation. It's always appreciated. But there's probably the best kind of client is somebody that has some sort of way to sell the product.
Okay.
Meaning they are a retailer or they have their own distribution. People that are looking to have their own distribution and sell it across the world or across the country are asking for more cigars. People that are single batch for a particular store, a private label for a store, are less quantities. Maybe they have more capacity to sell in other directions online, or they maybe have more than one store. And very few, you have clients that have cigars for themselves, that they want to have their own cigar. And yeah, normally it's people with a lot of money. and the fun part is always explaining is, okay, your cigar is going to cost you X amount. Shipping is this much. And you want to have packaging? How many cigars per box? Okay. The packaging is the hardest. That's what takes the longest. You have to design the box. You have to design the ring. And then how many boxes per how many cigars? And it's always fun to see how a client that is unaware how much of a cost of a cigar can go into packaging if they want to get very fancy. But normally, as of right now, what we're dealing with is actually people that have an ability to sell the product. So it's the best way, because it might be a one-time thing, or it might be a running project that they come back, or they come back for another edition. But it creates some sort of consistency with the factory and with the rollers. It would be horrible to have every week switching up to a different client. I like consistency, getting a certain number of cigars into production so that my rollers can keep making that cigar and they don't get out of rhythm, switching to another blend or switching to another size. Did we lose him?
Yeah, I actually think that Brian just dropped out, so he'll be back in a second. Anyways, great question, great answer, Klaas. Thanks for that. So with all those different blends, different customers, which attributes and elements of the blending, of the rolling, would you like to showcase and convey that this is a Kelner cigar, Kelner Cigars manufactured product? Let's put it that way.
Every company has their signature of what makes them different. Obviously, quality, taste profiles, that's very personal. not everybody's ability to taste the same thing in a cigar makes personal opinions from different people almost impossible to gauge. So maybe in physical aspects, you have different ways of showing that this cigar is your cigar. For example, one thing that I do in my factory, and it's mandatory, is that every single cigar roller that is rolling the wrapper onto the cigar finishes the cigar direct or with the same leaf. They finish the head with the same leaf. I've mentioned it a couple times before on other shows, but it is illegal to make a cigar in my factory with a cap or a chupi, how we call it here, where you cut a little circle and you put the cap on it, and it's like a separate piece of tobacco. I like every single cigar to be finished with the same leaf, and it's a perfect head shape. That's the way I grew up. That's the way it was when my dad was running things, and that's how my brother does things, and that's how my family does things. And you see it more and more in the industry where people are resorting to faster methods of doing what is considered a premium cigar. And part of the art is being able to tailor and finish that cigar with the same leaf. And I would never want to take that away. And when you get a new roller and they come to your factory, and maybe they learned how to roll cigars that way because that's the proper way to learn, but then they moved on to another factory that does caps, and they get used to the caps, and they get paid by piece. And because it's much faster to put on a cap, they get paid more and they push out more cigars. I tell them, don't worry about it. I'll pay you so that you're happy with the quality that you're making. And it doesn't matter if you're making less cigars. I just want every cigar to be as perfect as possible. So in a physical way, that's something visual that a client could actually see. In the way we roll the cigar inside, I come from my father's school, so we roll accordion style in the bunching, and a little bit of a tweak where one of the leaves in the filler, I use it to kind of hug the rest of the tobacco that's in the accordion, kind of providing almost like a second binder. So you got to be very careful with that and make sure that all the tobaccos are well centered, so you got that beautiful
pyramid shape.
Pyramid volcano shape. If every cigar was like this, I would be 100% happy with all the production. This is almost like too perfect for the show. Like I smoke a lot of rejects, and that's part of my job. I like to tell them, give me the ugly ones, give me the ones you think are not good, so I can kind of call them out on it and tell them, hey, place it more to the center. And so combustion. And then in regards to quality of tobacco that I buy, I don't cut any corners. I spend money on tobacco. So I'm not buying grade 2, grade 3 tobaccos, especially in wrapper. I'm going for grade 1 tobaccos, which are way more expensive because I want every wrapper to be as pristine as possible with no color defects. Of course, there's a rejection process after the cigar is made to make sure that every cigar that gets packed into a box is as perfect as possible. So quality control will be a big aspect and will be a big part of the company.
Klaas, can you probably just explain a bit further about that that bunching method, because I think it's highly interesting, and I know that all our dear guests and viewers love the nitty gritty and the geek stuff, and I actually haven't heard that concept of using one of the filler leaves to kind of embrace and hold the rest of the filler. I mean, I understand the concept of working with two binders, but also please elaborate on this a bit more if you can, with the accordion, how you do it, and then how you factor in that extra leaf.
Well, the way you place the tobaccos in a cigar is you put the thickest tobacco in the center, and then as you go towards the outside, you put thinner leaves because those will have better combustion. The highest temperature is in the center of the leaf. So you want to make sure all the thickest tobaccos are right down the center, creates that pyramid shape. Then you put accordion style So you fold the leaves kind of like an accordion. So like, and that way it creates the channels. But one of the feeler leaves, the thinnest leaf, we wrap it around, and then we put it in the bunching and then into the bunching machine, the Lieberman machine, and then there is the capote, the binder, and you roll the Lieberman machine up, and it kind of hugs it. It in essence, it becomes being like a double binder. It's something I like. It's something that my head roller also likes. It's something that I approved, and it's been working out very nicely. Maybe in the future I'll just go back to 100% accordion. I don't know, but it is something that's been working out very nicely, as you can see. You know, there's different styles of rolling cigars. There's entubado, kind of rolling up leaves in circles. There's accordion, and then there's kind of like booking. So you could almost argue that the last leaf is almost like a booking around the other leaves. Everybody has different styles. I think it's good to test different things, and it's been working out very nicely. But the accordion style is what gives you the nice draw and a much more consistent cone shape. Your other question.
Excellent. Many thanks. Peter.
It's great to have this guest on today, Reinhard. I appreciate it. I'm glad that I had this time.
Peter, I'm sorry. Maybe just I don't know if you use the headphone. Maybe just put your microphone down and we can hear you better.
Sorry, I forgot
There
about
you
that.
go.
Thank you for joining us, Klaas. This has been very informative, and I'm anxious to smoke some of your cigars. So I can't wait for some of your customers to reveal that they got cigars from you. The cigars that you're making now for third party, is that blend proprietary, or will you be able to release that on your own once you decide to begin selling cigars?
Well, all my clients, I'm very strict about this, but all my clients, the blend that they choose is their blend. It's almost, it's their blend. I won't give it to anybody else, but it's almost like, you know, maybe in the future, you never know, I'll release my own brand, and then I'm making this amazing cigar for somebody else, and it's an amazing blend. It's like, ooh, I wish I could have used that blend in my cigar, you know, because that one turned out very well. But yeah, I do let them own that blend. At the end of the day, I tell them, look, every company, every person has a different way of marketing their own products, and my suggestion to you, and I would much appreciate it if you are not telling the world what the blend is, but they can definitely reveal as much of the blend as they want. I personally, because they work so hand in hand with me, some of them get to see nitty-gritty details of the blend. So I do the things that are very particular, I tell them, this, don't say it. But very normal, traditional things of what tobaccos are in it, or what countries are in it, what positions of the level. If they want, they can go ahead and say that.
Was the decision to go strictly third party at the beginning something that made life easier for you rather than try to distribute your own cigars?
It's a good question. When my father made his factory Tabadón in 1994, he made a decision to only make cigars for other people. When my brother 10 years ago ventured off and made his own factory, he has his own brand, but he doesn't really do a big effort to distribute or market it. So people that know about it and buy it. But his focus is third party. And by being a third party factory, especially at the beginning, it allows me to concentrate in the factory, be there every day, and make sure that cigars are coming out are as perfect as possible, as humanly possible. And if I had started with my own brand, I would be so focused on getting the distribution channels, getting the sales, getting the footprint out, and I would have to do events, and I would have to travel, and I wouldn't be present in the factory. So in the future, if I have a better infrastructure where I can delegate some things and I can make sure that things are coming out well, then maybe I might be able to go do marketing. even now, right now, it's 2 p.m. Oh no, it's 3 p.m. now, and I should be in the factory. So this is marketing in a way, and I'm not in the factory. So I need to be in the factory as much as possible to make sure that it is as perfect as possible. There's other issues to take into consideration. For example, this is just budget consideration. You know, I would also have to spend so much money on making boxes, making rings, you know, shipping and distribution. I would have to spend so much, not my time, but also money outside, where instead I'm focusing my money in buying tobacco and making the factory better. So that's the idea. So focus on production, not be distracted by sales and marketing.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for your time today and helping us learn more about these wonderful cigars we enjoy.
Thank you, Peter. I'm Klaas Peter, by the way, so
yeah.
namesake.
Peter, lovely question. Thanks for chiming in and thanks for being with us as always. Much appreciated. Klaas, before we go back to Brian, because he's here with us again, I just wanted to go back to the bunching for one brief second. 2 weeks ago, we spoke with Eric Espinosa, and he was quite particular about the positioning of the leaves. Like once you tear parts of the filler apart, and then you kind of put it back into the bunch. Do you have any philosophies or thoughts about this? Because I think also when it comes to the construction and the bunching of Davidoff cigars, that there was particular thought put into this as well. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, I come from that school, so let's put it this way. So you have a physical object. The leaf has where it's connected to the stalk, and then the tip of the leaf, right? So the head and the foot of the leaf, let's call it. In the leaf itself, there is different strengths. So the tip of the leaf at the end is the strongest part, and the bottom of the leaf is the lightest part. So when you're putting the cigar and you're punching the cigar, you break in the bottom, and then you redistribute from the bottom up. That way, you even out with the softest part. If you do it the opposite way, you're breaking from the top and you redistributing, then you can, it is much more easy for the strongest part of the leaf to be put at the end of the cigar, at the bottom, whereas where you would be smoking it. So by putting the strongest part of the leaf here, it allows for the smoke to be filtered and even out with the strength of the whole cigar. But if you put all the strength of all the strong leaves here, then you're gonna get that really strong evolution, and the cigar is gonna get much stronger as you're smoking cigar. So if you wanna make a cigar that becomes stronger as you are smoking it, then you take this tip of the leaf and you put it towards the end. And if you wanna make a cigar that is a little bit more even, then you redistribute from the bottom and you put it on, you grab the softest and you distribute it throughout. So it's an interesting question. We've had situations in the past where we did events in Europe, and people, well, this is personal experiences where people are kind of used to that evolution. The cigar really gets much stronger as you're going, and fairly particular of some Cuban cigars. And we were at a demonstration where we had a cigar roller, and somebody was asking, can you make a cigar that gets stronger? So the roller was right there, and we told him, do it backwards. He's like, what do you mean do it backwards? Like, yeah, put the tip of the leaf towards the end. And the guy was fascinated. The guy was like, oh my God, this is how I like cigars. I like my cigars getting stronger. But that's not how we do our style. But it's something that if it was a company philosophy, you could do it. You could distribute the leaves the other way around.
Brilliant. Thanks for sharing that. Beautiful insights. Brian, welcome back.
Thank you. Sorry, I had a bit of a Wi-Fi problem, so I missed the end of your answer there for me. But I got back and I put in the chat to Reinhard, I'm like, sorry, my Wi-Fi died suddenly. All good now. And then it auto-corrected to wife. So he's reading, sorry, my wife died suddenly. All good now. And he writes back, I hope you meant Wi-Fi. Sorry about that. And wife is all good, all alive and healthy.
We're glad to hear, Brian. Thanks.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, this is really fascinating. So yeah, I mean the like, you know, private client for their own usage thing. I mean, people needing cigars for them to go and sell makes much more sense to me. So like you were saying, somebody wants it to taste like such and such cigar that already exists, they could just go buy that cigar if that's what they wanted.
Yeah, but they want the privilege of saying I have my own cigar with
Right.
my name on it. Even though there are not many of these clients, these kind of clients tend to be high profile, and it's not just for themselves. They also have intentions to give it as gifts. And these gifts go to also other high profile people. It's very interesting clientele that their money is not an issue. It's not a lot of cigars normally, but it's people that you want to work with because you're associated with that kind of profile of client. And
Yeah.
the more it spreads out, the better. But it is very nice to have somebody that has their own cigar. And when people come to my house, I give them my cigar. I don't know. It's just so nice to be able to, or for a wedding, for example, or for the birth of a baby. They're asking maybe for, I don't know, 1,000 cigars, and they're just going to give them all out as gifts. Maybe not for them.
That makes sense. Yeah, I met somebody out one time, and he had a cigar and had an extra one, and he's like, "Yeah, this is my own cigars, my own brand," but he's not selling them. He's like, "I just make them to give," so he's not actually really making cigars. So now I wonder who's actually making those cigars for him.
Yeah, the issue with that is that there's a lot of small factories that are in that market, and sometimes I'm disappointed to see somebody that has a particular cigar that was made for them, and then I see the factory that was made where it was made, and I realize that factory is a living room somewhere off in the street in Dominican Republic, and it's their cigar. Those little establishments that are small factories that are somebody's home don't have the proper quality controls or don't have the access to the right type of tobaccos. So if somebody were to come to me and ask for a cigar, they are getting high quality tobacco. And if that client, the price is not an issue, God knows what they're charging them for, sorry, but crappy tobacco, crappy quality control. And sometimes I'll get a cigar from somebody and they'll tell me, this is my cigar, and I'll taste it. And there's been occasions that I kid you not, like I taste a cigar and I respect the cigar. I say, thank you. I smoke it the whole way. But you see the blend, you taste the blend, and you say, my friend, your cigar only has 2 types of tobacco in it. It's like, how do you know that? It's like, because it's a very straightforward cigar. You can see it in the ash. There's only 2 types of tobacco. So it's not a very complex cigar. I hope you're not paying a lot for this cigar. And then they tell me how much they're paying for it. And I'm like, oof. But everybody needs to make a living,
Yeah, that's funny.
And I've had a situation once where somebody gave me a cigar. I knew the blend. I told them the blend off the bat. They were scared, and they told me, please don't copy my blend. Like I like my blend. Like, please don't distribute it. I'm like, don't worry. I don't have an intention to copy your blend. What I was really saying is your blend is way too easy to copy. It's not complex. But you got to be respectful for them. Hey, at the end of the day, a free cigar is a free cigar.
Yeah. One more question. So do you have ideas of maybe in the distant future coming out with something that for yourself with your own name on it? Because at this point, I guess if we were excited and we're like, oh, I really want to have some of your stuff, we'd have to really do the research, and we'd have to find who's having a cigar out there and where is it made, and also the idea of collaboration I think as a concept in general, because with kind of this epic lineage and name, it'd be like an example would be Cigar Hustler, has their own line. like stores or Smoke Inn or whatever, say they wanted to have a cigar with their name on it, but then there could be like by Kelner, you know what I mean? Like a little kind of nod kind of thing.
Yeah, we kind of discussed it. I don't know if you were gone in that particular moment, but yeah, there are plans that in the future, I have a good infrastructure, might come out with my own stuff. What did my dad do right? My dad did control right. He didn't. He built up his name and he built up his prestige through quality and control. And then he had the opportunity to travel and represent a brand that is very famous. I had the opportunity to travel and represent a brand that is very famous. You're doing all the work for somebody else's brand. So maybe in the future for the family, we can finally say, hey, we have our own brand and we are doing the work for our own family. So I don't know how far away it is, but you can bet it still will happen.
Cool. Hey,
Sneak
cheers.
peek. Thank you.
Ian, please chime in.
Hi, Klaas. Really enjoying this talk. And just sort of a comment first. I had a Protestant upbringing, but of course, the best cigars are made in Catholic countries. So maybe it's I don't know what it says there. Also, we like alcohol and wine and so on. Question actually about your father. Obviously, you've got a great heritage. Are you trying to be sort of different from your father? And do you disagree with your father on anything about how to do cigars? Perhaps you can tell us a few stories about things you've learned from your father that have really helped you.
Do I want to be like my father? If I am half the man that he is at his age, I will have achieved something great. You always want the best for your kids, and you always want them to always grow in what they love, and then maybe one day surpass you. What better than my daughter to do what I do? I mean, I'm not forcing her. She's 2 years old, but she already has a cigar with her name on it. But when she was born, we made a cigar with her name on it. A great cigar. I don't even have a cigar with my name on it yet. But I would love for her to surpass me. So I'm sure my dad would love for his kids to surpass him in any way, shape, or form. And do we disagree on a lot of things? Yeah. Do we agree on a lot of things? We also agree on a lot of things. Even starting this factory, even the layout of the factory, the flow of the tobacco, where the aging room was going to be, where the sorting, then where the drying, where the galera, where the aging room, where the packaging. My dad and I must have drawn out the floor plan of that factory more than 20 times. And then even towards the end, we even made more modifications before we approved a floor plan. My dad says, you need 2 aging rooms. I say, I can do, with my size, I can work with only 1. My dad says, why are you going to do refrigeration? We didn't do refrigeration in Tabadon. Well, I want to do refrigeration because that will mean less fumigation. Yes, higher electricity bill, but less fumigation, less bugs, lower the temperature, lower the humidity, better for aging. So that's something I do different than my dad. Why are you going to use this tobacco? We never used this tobacco in Tabadon. Well, Dad, you got to try it. Give it a chance. And now it's one of my dad's favorite tobaccos. Sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I'm right. My dad now, there's a variety that my dad, every time he visits, he says, make me my cigar. And his cigar is a 1 variety stick. And 100%, because he has loved that tobacco. That it's a tobacco we never got to use in the factory when we were back in Tabadon. So even my dad is learning things at this time. So I go to other factories and I see what they're doing and what maybe they're doing better than we were doing in the other factory. We have a factory from scratch, so that allows us to do whatever we want. There were no walls. There was no floor. There was literally 4 walls and a roof. That was the building. So we got to design it from scratch, however we wanted, and put everything where we wanted. And we're gonna make the drawing room 25 square meters. Actually, no, that's gonna be too big. Let's do it 20 square meters. And then we build it out, and then the building is already finished. It's like, shoot, we could have made it 15 square meters. We could have saved more space and add more space in here. We're still making mistakes at this. With my dad and I are still making mistakes. So yes, we disagree on a lot of things, but I like the banter, and it's always positive reinforcement. It's never, you should have done this. I told you. It's always like, well, okay, next time let's do it differently. He's very supportive, which is a great thing. And my brothers and my sisters also had inputs. So they got to come in while the factory was being built, and they had their own advice. Did I take some? Yes. Did I take some? No. But you have to take from everybody that has more experience than you. And that's something we've been doing quite well. I mean, I remember very specifically back in Tabadon days, my dad gave me once a cigar, and it's a cigar I hated. And my dad told me, well, this cigar is going to be the next release of Davidoff, so you better like it. And remember that we're not blending for you. We're blending for the customer base. So those are lessons that you learn from your dad. Dad, let's grow more tobacco. Dad, we have this land. Let's do this. Just recently, Dad, I want to grow bananas in this land that we have. It's not a land that is good for growing tobacco. I want to grow bananas. The market is good for it right now. It's interesting. You don't have to tear down the field every year. You can keep the banana plants for several years. Awesome, let's do it. Next thing I know, my dad says, no, we're gonna grow rice on that farm out of nowhere. And we have 2 years growing rice in that farm. And it's profitable, but you win some, you lose some.
Do you have a sort of what are your favorite cigars? And have you had a cigar that really has sort of stood out for you and that you've really thought, I wish I could do a cigar like this?
2009 Selección 702 limited edition. That's the cigar I want to recreate, but the wrapper doesn't exist. It's not even being grown anymore. Or 2006 Diadema Fina. I still have some. It's a cigar that I smoke once a year. So these are cigars that are like, if I were to recreate something for myself, I would try to aim in that direction, flavor profile wise. There's a catch, and it's that working in a big company like Davidoff that actually have the ability to produce their own varieties of tobacco and hybrids that are exclusive to them. As a small guy that you got to go out and buy tobacco from third parties, these are tobaccos that you will never have access for until you are able to do that on your own many years down the road, if you ever get to do that. So I have to work with what's out there, and I have to blend with what's out there. So we'll definitely do the best we can with what's available, and that's my job.
That's a bit technical. So what are they doing? They're hybridizing tobaccos for their own production in a way that nobody else is doing. Is that what's going on?
Yeah. So they take a flavor from one variety, a flavor from another variety, smash it together, and after X amount of years, you have a single strand of tobacco that can't be reproduced by anybody else, and it's your own variety. Some suppliers have them as well, but they will mass market it to different people. So suppliers are known for growing their own varieties or their own strands of certain varieties. So it takes many years to do. Or you take a a flavor profile that you like, but it doesn't grow well in this area of the country or in this country at all, because there's a particular virus or particular mold. You take another variety that has a resistance to that disease, and then you smash them together and you get the flavor that you want with the resistance to the disease. So it's something that takes many years to do. And many of these beautiful limited editions that Davidoff are able to create have these varieties that are impossible to replicate. So
Thank you.
I mean, they're great. They're great tobaccos. They're great flavors. Doesn't mean that there's also other great tobaccos that you can blend with out there, you know. Yeah. But it gives them an advantage in proprietary blends, you could say.
Thank you, and I wish you every success with your project. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ian.
Speaking of, we had many questions from our viewers, people who are curious about the particular types of tobaccos that you're using, or if you can disclose some varietals that you have been using a lot recently, some that you probably would like to start working with but haven't had a chance yet.
I mean, it's no big secret. So, I mean, there's some tobaccos out there that I grew up blending a lot with San Vicente. So San Vicente is something that I look for a lot. Piloto Cubano, and it's a tobacco that's very widely available. It's great for increasing good balance in the back and adding some sweetness. Right now, all my wrappers are from Ecuador, from a particular supplier. So, I mean, again, you lean towards some tobaccos that you have great experiences. And then, for example, Criollo 98 is one that I wasn't very familiar with. And then I'm starting to use a lot more because it has amazing balance. It can round out a lot of blends. So there's a lot of staple tobaccos out there. And then you got distributors that have access to random tobaccos. I mean, just this morning, I got offered Colombian tobacco, Mexican tobacco, but for filler. And they're always trying to push you different things. I have another supplier that offered me, not Cameroon, but I forget right now, but another African country that they had a small supply of that tobacco. And it's so am I using these? No. But for example, something that I want to use more if clients like it, is Besuki. I like Indonesian tobacco. My wife lived in Indonesia for 8 years of her life. My wife is what I call a tobacco brat. And she followed her dad everywhere her dad was put to work. So her dad lived in the Philippines working tobacco, lived in Indonesia working tobacco, Dominican Republic. So I have this close to my heart that after I got married, the first trip I did with my wife was to Indonesia. And my wife accepted somehow to spend 3 days of our honeymoon out in the middle of Indonesia looking at tobacco. She's awesome. So it's a great tobacco that is very clean, very smooth, and adds a little nice sweetness. Doesn't overpower blends, but adds a nice sweetness. So, but at the end of the day, it depends on the client. I have offered, for example, blends with Indonesian tobacco to some people, and whether because it's Indonesian and maybe doesn't have that much of a famous name, or whether because of the taste, the client rejects it. So at the end, I depend on the client and what he wants. Do I have that tobacco available and ready? Yes. Have I made cigars with it? Yes. But it's not something that you're going to see very often.
Yeah. Macy, one of our regulars, our resident lawyer here, he's particularly fond of Colombian tobaccos, and he dreams of manufacturing cigars in Colombia one day because his wife's from there. And he actually asked about Colombian tobacco, but I want to frame the question a bit wider. You mentioned shortages of tobacco due to the ongoing mini boom, as a lot of people call it. Do you think that will eventually push the industry towards exploring more obscure provenances of tobacco, so that people will look more for things like Colombian or other origins of tobacco that have been less frequent in cigar blends these days?
If there's not a constant supply and it's very small, you'll never see it widely available, especially with the big guys, because they need some sort of consistency. You might see it more often with smaller boutique factories that have short runs. The boom will die off, tobacco will come back. It's just how the market reacts and how the farmers are reacting. And hopefully they're not overreacting and they are not over planting tobacco so that they don't get hit with a sudden decline. But there's also other things, I mean, that are acts of God. I mean, we just heard it, a warehouse burning down yesterday in Santiago. There was not a premium cigar manufacturing company, but more of a lower end for machines and bobbins. They just had a fire. They lost several thousands and thousands of pounds of tobacco. And when you see a big guy get affected by something like this, it affects everybody. It affects the supply chain because now the suppliers are scrambling, and it affects everybody that's buying tobacco, and it affects the small guys maybe the most because they're not the big clients. I mean, it's not something that I particularly worry about because right now, being small, I'm doing smaller runs. But if you're ever in it with a very consistent line that it's every year pumping thousands and thousands of cigars of one particular blend, a shortage like that could hurt you. And it could force you to change the blend up a little bit. And that's something clients wouldn't like. It's nothing that keeps me up at night, but it is something that definitely happens. I think that those small batches of tobaccos that are from very specific countries, you ask the supplier, how many bales of that you have? I'm like, well, I have 60 bales. No big guy's going to go and buy that. They're going to distribute it amongst the smaller guys because 60 bales is not enough.
Klaas, I very much like and enjoy that you're a calm and composed guy, and you have a very analytical view on the industry and the things that you do. And I mean, you just said it, that the current boom that we're going through and living through will eventually slow down or die down. But what's your perspective for the next couple of years in the premium cigar industry? Obviously, now you look at it differently as a manufacturer yourself, but bigger picture, what are some of the things that you see that worry you or that you feel positive about for the next couple of years?
I think everybody that owns a brand or owns a factory, their biggest nightmare is regulations. And you see it in Europe, you see it in the United States, you see it in other countries that are getting tougher and tougher. But at the end of the day, everybody's going to smoke cigars. You've seen a nice growth with this little boom caused by the pandemic. So that's kind of nice because you gotta, even during a moment of horrible time for the world, some people were not as affected as others. And you see growers that were able to surpass this. You see smaller guys that were able to surpass this. To a certain point, the pandemic was a benefit for the cigar people, but it will die down. But I don't, at least not in the near future, I don't think the industry is collapsing and it's going to maintain stable or keep growing little by little. I think also social media has a great way of getting new customers, especially the younger ones. So you see the demographic changing to a very curious younger generation who are willing to try new things, which is great for people that make new things or smaller guys or geeks like us that are trying to try out new things. So definitely, I'm not worried. What could really ruin everything for the industry would be a big country that's part of a big percentage of the market to actually shut down with a certain regulation. The FDA wants to start cracking apparently now on factories, and they're going to start with the bigger factories. And there's one of the funniest things I could ever imagine. Imagine a government regulator from the United States coming down to the Dominican Republic and going into the streets of Tamboril and looking at little factories that are in living rooms, in the worst health conditions, in dirty health conditions, motorcycles driving past them. I can just imagine the nightmare of a FDA regulator going down to the Dominican Republic. That would be a very funny sight to see. Or they might just hire somebody in the Dominican Republic to go and check out these little factories, and then the little factories will pay them off. I don't know. Between you and me, there's many ways around it. But the smaller factories, at least for now, are not getting the brunt of it. They're focusing on the big guys. So these are things that I need to think about in the future. But as of right now, we're very worried.
Klaas, you represent the young generation of cigar manufacturers and people in the industry. Do you see your responsibility rather in preserving tradition and maintaining certain standards and traditions and qualities and values, or do you also think that it's important and you're a tool in order to bring innovation and take the industry into the future by implementing new ideas, new thoughts, new concepts, and maybe even new techniques in the way you handle tobacco in the rolling department of the manufacturing in general?
That's tough because I'm a purist at heart. I want to maintain as much of the tradition as possible. I wouldn't be against into some sort of improvement, new techniques. I wouldn't be against it, but I think there's a mystique around doing things the traditional way. And that's something I would like to keep. Sometimes new things and new marketing ideas come from the marketing and the sales side, and then they push the factory to create this new innovation. Sometimes it comes from the factory. What I personally would like to see a change, though, and I'm always very proponent of this, is working conditions in the factories. Clean environments, organized environments, healthy relationships in the factory, healthy teams, good working conditions, better salaries. That's something that the boom has brought. Better salaries towards the rollers. They're making more money. Yes, there's inflation. Yes, it kind of goes hand in hand, but you need to provide better life and better outlook for the families that work with you by providing them anything, school materials for their kids, health insurance, bonuses, uniforms for their baseball teams, anything that makes them happy. So you have to be a good boss. And right now I have a small team. And in the Dominican Republic, health insurance isn't that great. My dad always told me that at the end of the day, the health insurance of your employee is not the government insurance. That the health insurance of your employee is the boss. You're the one that needs to take care of them. So that's where I would like to see more change, giving more back to the people. And I'm not afraid to charge more so that I can pay my rollers more. It depends, of course, on the client if you want to pay, but I'm not afraid to do that because I want a healthy relationship with the factory and my employees.
That's a wonderful thought and a wonderful message. Klaas, I know that you need to get back to the Galera floor and back to the factory. We want to be respectful
Not today.
of your time, but
it's a long weekend. Actually, tomorrow is Corpus Christi. Jueves Corpus Christi. And actually all factories are, most factories, if not all, did Puente. They switched to Friday for Saturday. So today we're shutting down the factory. And all I need to do after this is actually go back and make sure that the fumigation started. So we're actually taking the whole long weekend. And tonight fumigation starts and we'll open up the doors Saturday night, Sunday morning. So the fumigation dissipates. So my factory is closed as of 1 hour, as of almost right now. I just need to make sure that the fumigation is going well. So yes, everybody has to be back home at some point. I got to go back to my wife and my daughter. I'm home already. But thank you so much for the time everybody has spent, really.
Klaas, we have to thank you. It's been a privilege and an absolute pleasure to have you with us and to learn from your tremendous experience. And you know, it's those little value bombs and those little nuggets of information that I feel you can only get on shows like ours and in conversations like when we get to sit down with people like yourself, the manufacturers, the tobacco growers, the people who are so intimately involved with the product and the manufacturing process. That's so crucially important for all of us as cigar enthusiasts to learn and to better understand, and as a consequence, appreciate even more what we have in our hands and in our mouths. And that's just fascinating. So thank you from heart for that. And I wish you nothing but success, joy, and health, and all the very best for this exciting new chapter of your life. Yeah, I can't wait to see you in Vegas a couple of weeks from now. We'll be together.
I'll be there.
I think you never missed a trade show. You even got married at one, so that's an important one for you. And I look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, thank you.
Klaas, many thanks. All the very best to you. Take good care. And next week we'll do a little PCA pre-show. We'll have Scott Pierce and Joshua Habersky joining us for an update on all the government affairs, the regulatory aspects, the trade show. So we'll do a whole PCA update show next week. Join us again, same time, same station. But for tonight, Klaas, again, many thanks and all the very best to you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Reach out to me.
Good night.
Always available.
Thank you.
Thank you, Klaas.
All right.
We will.
Klaas, thanks, Reinhard.
Thank you.